Hello, friends. We are back again, and we're just going to continue with some more elimination, except we are taking it up to even the next level. This one's going to really challenge your brain. You have to think, you're going to have to utilize what you learned in 7.3 and in 7.4 day one, because you'll ultimately still be doing elimination. And so that was what we did in 7.3. Then in 7.4 day one, we learned how to create an equal but opposite pair. Through multiplication. But today it's going to be different, because in 7.4 day one, we were able to multiply just one equation by a number to make them match. Today, we're still going to need to create an equal opposite pair, but we're going to be doing that by multiplying both equations. And usually it's it's always, I suppose, by different numbers. And we're trying to create a number that will match. So here, let's go through a couple. So what I'm going to do, and if you're taking notes, don't squiggle all over this like I'm about to. Wait until I get into the solving. What I'm going to look at is, how could I match these up? Well, I can't multiply 3 by something to turn it into 4, but I could multiply them both by something to turn them into 12s. I'm looking for the smallest number I can create. With 5 and 2, the smallest number I can create by multiplication, because that's still my only tool. I still can only do multiplying. 5 and 2 can both go into the number 10. So how do you pick? Well, in this case, keep in mind they don't just have to be equal in value, they also have to be opposite in sign. And in my initial problem, this 4x and this negative 3x are already opposite in sign. One is positive and one is negative. So since there's not a huge difference in how complicated that is, making the 12 or making the 10, I'm going to go ahead and concentrate on making these x's match up, keeping in mind that I'm trying to turn them into plus and minus 12. So what do I need to multiply the top by? Well, to turn 4 into my positive 12, I'll need to multiply by 3. Everything in that row. So you probably want your calculator today. So 3 times 4, 12x, that's what I was trying to get. Then I'm going to have 3 times 5, and so I'll have 15y, and then I'm going to have 3 times 35, which is 105. So we're getting bigger numbers here because our brains are getting bigger. In the second row, second equation, I'm still trying to get that plus or minus 12. I already have a positive 12 in the top, so now I'm trying to match this with a negative 12. The 3 is already negative, but I will need to multiply the bottom row by 4, every part. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12x, and that's going to be my equal but opposite pair. 4 times 2y is 8y. 4 times negative 9 is negative 36. That is really the only 7.4 day 2 part. Now everything else is what we've been doing since 7.3. These are equal but opposite, so they eliminate. These two, 15y and 8y, both positive, become 23. And if I have my 105 and then a negative 36, 105 minus 36 is 69. Dividing by 23, I get 3. Awesome. Keeping in mind that we are still doing the solving systems, we still find an x and y coordinate. We found y first, so that is the 3. Now I go back, and I always go back to my original problems before I distributed, because I want to use smaller numbers. and I'm going to plug in my y equals 3. Even though the numbers in the bottom row are smaller, the top row doesn't have any negatives, so I would probably choose to plug it in there. So 4x plus 5, and then I got 3 for y, is supposed to equal 35. So that's 4x plus 15. Taking that 15 away, I have 4x equals 20. And dividing by 4, I get x equals 5. Just like yesterday and the day before and all the other days of systems, I could plug those in and check my work to the original problems. 4 times 5 plus 5 times my y value of 3. Does it equal 35? Plug it into my calculator. Yes. Bottom row, -3 times my x plus 2 times my y. Does that equal -9? And the answer to that is yes. Okay, so let's get to it again. We're going to have to really think. Looking at this one, what can I turn 3 and 5 into through multiplication? Well, they both go into 15. How about 7 and 9? The only thing I can think of is 63, and that's getting up there. So I'm going to go ahead and focus on trying to get that plus or minus 15 from my x's. So thinking about a positive or negative 15 and taking a peek at these, they already have one positive in the top row with the 3. And then we already have a negative in the bottom row with the 5. So we don't have to worry about the signs. We just have to be able to get them to both be 15s. So I'll need to multiply the top by 5 so that this will become positive 15. But then everybody in that top row has to get multiplied by that 5. Got to be fair to the whole equation. And then in the bottom row, I'm going to multiply by 3 because 3 times -5 gives me -15x. And that is going to create right here my equal but opposite pair. But I still have to go through and distribute this 3. So 3 times 9 is going to give me a positive 27 here. And then 3 times 5, never forget that one at the end. That one always gets forgotten. All right. Ready for what we learned in 7-3. These are equal but opposite, so those cancel out. Here I have -35 plus 27, so -8y. And then here I end up with 40. Dividing by -8, just don't forget about the negative. My y value is -5. Awesome. Put it in for the y coordinate. And now when I go to try to find x, I make sure that I pick whichever one I want, but I have to make sure I put in the -5 for y. I'm going to use the top one. 3 times x minus 7 times what we just got for y has to equal 5. Be careful here. These negatives are going to multiply together and cancel out to become positive. Taking away my 35, I have 3x equals 30. So when I divide by 3, x is 10. So my solution to the system is 10, -5. And again, I could plug it back into my original problems to check my work. Okay, now we're going to keep thinking really hard. These are going to get kind of tricky. What can I get 7 and 8 to both become? Well, that one could be 56. Now think about the smallest number that you can get 10 and 15 to both become. Well, they can both become 30. So I'm actually going to match those up. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to get a plus and a minus 30. So I'm thinking plus or minus 30 y's is what I want for this one. So focusing on that y column, keep in mind that currently they're both positive. So we'll need to change one of them to negative. I always change the bottom row because it makes me less confused. So focusing on the y's and knowing I want to turn them into 30, I have a 10. So the top row gets multiplied by 3. Distributing it, I'll get negative 21x. And then here is that 30y that I'm trying to get. And then don't forget about the other side of the equal sign. Everything got multiplied by that 3. Now think about the bottom, focusing on the y's, keeping in mind that I'm trying to turn them into 30s. Well, to get my 15 to be a 30, I'll need a 2. But since I already have a positive 30, I want a negative 2 down here on the bottom. So negative 2 times negative 8 is going to give me a 16x. Negative 2 times positive 15 gives me the negative 30y that I need to cancel out. And, that way I have a positive and negative 30y. And then negative 2 times 34 is going to give me a negative 68. Okay. Now I'm back to 7-3. Plus 30y minus 30y, cancel out or eliminate. Negative 21x and a positive 16 will give me negative 5x. And then 33 minus 68 is going to give me a negative 35. Dividing out the negative 5, what do we get for x? Positive 7. And this time we did get the x first, so I fill that in. Going back to my original equation so that I'm not using bigger numbers than necessary, I'm going to plug that 7 in for x to find my y. I don't know, neither one of these looks awesome, so I'll just take the top. Negative 7 times 7 plus 10y has to equal 11. Okay, that's negative 49 plus 10y has to equal 11. Adding my 49 over, which is solving like we have been all year, that's going to turn into 60. And then dividing by 10, I find that my y coordinate is going to be a 6. And then I can go back, check my work by plugging in 7 for x and 6 for y. All right, let's try one more. This is kind of tricky. Looking at your numbers, wowza, 7 and 11. All I can think of is 77. That seems huge. So 12 and 8, think about 12 goes into 24, and so does 8. So that seems easier than 77. So that's going to be what I choose to match up. So I'm thinking over here, I'm going to be trying to create a plus and a minus 24x. So now, how do I do that? Well, in my problem, one's already positive and one's already negative, so I don't have to worry about that. To get a 24x out of the top, I'll need to multiply by 2, because then 2 times 12x gives me the 24x I'm trying to create. 2 times negative 7 and 2 times negative 2. Bottom row, think about what you're trying to make. You're trying to make a positive and negative 24. We already have a positive 24x. So to make this bottom negative 8x into a negative 24x, we'll need to multiply by 3. 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. That was the goal, have equal but opposite x's. 3 times 11 puts a 33 right here. And then 3 times 14 is going to give me a 52. Or 42. Sorry. Okay, so Then I'm going to go ahead and use my 7-3 skills to do elimination. Positive 24 and negative 24x I created so they would eliminate. I have a negative 14 and a 33. So together that makes 19y. And then with 42 minus 4, that gives me 38 from these two. Getting the y alone, I have to divide by 19, and y is 2. So in this particular problem, I found y first, and I'm going to use it to find x. Go back, use either of your original problems. Both look kind of messy. Let's just put them in the top one. 12x minus 7 times y equals negative 2. Solve for x. So negative 7 times 2 becomes negative 14. Add that puppy over to the other side. 12x equals 14 and a negative 2 becomes 12. So when I divide out the 12, I get x is 1. So then when I go to put that in as my solution, it is the point 1, 2 that I could go back and check by plugging in 12 times my x minus 7 times my y. Does that equal negative 2? That's my top equation. That would check out on my calculator. Bottom equation. Negative 8 times my x plus 11 times my y. Does that equal 14? Do that on my calculator. Checks out. Awesome. All right. These are going to take your whole brain. So just think through when you look at the numbers, which partnership can I put together easier, and then kind of write out what you want to try to remember you're trying to get. And then it keeps me from losing track of what I'm doing. If I know my goal is to have a plus and minus 24x, I can concentrate on that. Here, if I know my goal is to have a plus or minus 30y, I can concentrate on that. The only tool in your toolbox is multiplying, so you always have to create those matching pairs through multiplication. Have a great day. Bye, guys.